I've been playing League of Legends for a long time. Around 8 years, I've put myself through this self-harm process. Through those years, one champion has had my back since the beginning. My boy, Shen. He's been one of my favorite characters in the game since I started playing. Old Shen to new Shen, I love this ninja man. Now, similar to TF, I believe that Shen has one of the best designs in the game, despite his current strength in the meta at the time of writing. I think that Shen has a lot of risk-reward that I'd like to see in other champions. Sure, he's a tank, but he's one of 2 tanks I'd argue actually require a brain. Let's go over his kit real quick. First is Shen's passive, Key Barrier. Every time you use an ability, you get a shield that scales with bonus HP. Every time an ability affects another champion, Key Barrier's cooldown is reduced. Essentially what this means is if you play well, you get rewarded with a lower cooldown on your shield. Also, you have a Spirit Blade. Next is Shen's Q, Twilight Assault. Shen pulls his Spirit Blade towards him, and enemies that the blade hits on its way to Shen are slowed when moving away from him. Your next 3 basic attacks are empowered, dealing magic damage based on the target's maximum HP, and some small base damage. When the blade goes through an enemy, you gain 50% attack speed and deal more damage. It also increases Shen's attack range a little bit, which seems like a throwaway fact, but we'll talk about why it's actually rather nice. Afterward, we have Shen's W, Spirit's Refuge. Shen puts out a field originating from his sword. For the next 1.75 seconds, all basic attacks that hit Shen or an ally are blocked. Simple and easy. Shen's E is Shadow Dash. Shen dashes in any direction. If he hits an enemy champion, he taunts them, dealing physical damage scaling with Shen's bonus HP. It also has a passive effect that whenever Shen deals damage with Shadow Dash or Twilight Assault, you recover a portion of your energy, scaling with level. Real quick, I'd like to divert your attention to the cost and cooldown of this ability. This will be important later. Notice how this ability costs a lot and has an extremely high cooldown early on. Cool, remember that. Finally, Shen's R, Stand United. Shen channels for 3 seconds, shielding the targeted champion for 5, and teleports their location. The shield scales with the target's missing HP, and this ability is global. This is Shen's most iconic ability, and what Shen's probably most known for. Shen's general role in-game is being a dueling, split-pushing tank. You have a very strong early game, allowing you to get a lead if you play lane properly. You can then extend your lead using your ultimate to pick up kills and spread gold to your carries. Since you have so much strong dueling potential, teams will be forced to send more than one person to deal with you. But you have a built-in teleport, which can allow you to group with your team and then take advantage of the 3v5, or however many they sent after you. You also act as a very good defensive tank, since your ult and your W are both extremely powerful tools for making sure your carries don't die. Where I think Shen excels where other champions fail is the impact of his abilities versus the cooldown and cost. Remember what I said about Shen's E before? Typically in lane, you want to dash through opponents to guarantee your Q goes through them, for the extra damage. If you miss your E, however, you just blew your only escape, about half of your resource bar, and repositioned yourself into what is most likely a suboptimal position. In other words, when you miss your abilities and play poorly, you get naturally punished for it. You fuck up, you have 18 seconds to think about your mistakes and be without any good engage or escape tools. To put this into perspective, this ability has a longer cooldown and 200 less range than Camille's dash in the early game. On top of this, you don't have a combat ultimate. It has one of the longest cooldowns of the game at 200 seconds level 1, so you better make good use of it. If you ult a carry and get interrupted or that carry dies, okay, that's 200 seconds. Your primary reason for being in the game is gone. Even his least interactable ability, his Q, has some level of interaction with the blade mechanic. You can bait out the ability and make him lose the early advantage. His normal non-empowered Q isn't that powerful, and any character with a halfway decent early game should be able to at least trade with him with just the normal version. His W is on an extremely long cooldown as well, but most importantly, it creates interactivity in a mechanic that's designed to have none. Basic attacks now need to be thought out. If you're playing some right-click wonder champion that just walks up to people and presses buttons on them, you now need to actually think before you use abilities. I think it's a good way to punish players for picking champions that only right-click. The main thing is that every bit of Shen's kit has some level of interaction. It all feeds back into micromechanics being important on top of macro, which I think should be a more predominant factor in this game. More current champions just get to have damage because of passives or insane healing that allows them to make up for poor micro. I don't know why a champion like Set that has insane damage and all in has an ability that makes small trades with him nullified. At least with Garen, it stops healing him if he takes damage. Rants aside, another reason I like Shen is that it gives top lane a much stronger impact on the game. League is a team game, so I feel that in order to win, you should be forced to interact with them on some level directly. Nothing gives me more joy than when a Darius player, a champion who essentially auto-wins lane by being locked in and doing nothing of mechanical merit, just complains about how top lane has no impact, even though effectively all they did was beat a tank like a drum for 20 minutes. Shen doesn't have that problem because of his ultimate. He inherently has a lot of impact on the map and can carry gains by coordinating with his team. Currently, due to items, if you're ahead enough, yeah, you can just disrespect everyone in the game and become an unkillable god, but this usually is not how you'll be winning games. Typically, you'll need to win games by extending your lead to one of your carries and both of you be a threat. You don't have the individual carry potential of, say, Katarina to 1v9 everyone, but you do have the tools to keep another carry alive and keep them ahead. This is how I feel most characters should be forced into carrying. You have to work in tandem with your team and play around them, rather than just bulldozing your way through with unlimited mobility or having a 10 billion HP heal. Or, if they do need a team, it might just be, everyone go die and blow abilities for me so I can just 1v9. I think more direct interaction with your team should be mandatory. Because you have low mobility and your damage doesn't scale, you have a ticking clock for when your damage and general combat effectiveness will drop off. Unlike other tanks or fighters, you don't have a big engage tool or insane mobility, so the team fighting is a lot harder for you than your peers. You don't have any built-in heal or built-in stats to make you tanky by default, nor do you have a passive that gives you damage. You have your passive and your W, which are good tools, don't get me wrong, but they're not as good as, say, Ornn items, or infinite scaling on HP, or 600 armor on W. The point being that while you do have defensive tools, you don't have anything that just gives you numbers, unlike other tanks or other fighters. You're strong early and you drop off later into the game. You have the opportunity to get a lead, but you're still useful without one. But you're not going to single-handedly end the game if you get one. If you don't have a lead, you don't get to duel people. If you do have a lead, you can. Most of the time. Due to the way Shen scales, if you have a lead, you get to bully people all game. But if you don't, you get bullied all game. I really think this needs to be a more common scaling trend with characters. Time and time again, I see characters go 0-2 in the early game, but still be relevant. Even though if the situation were reversed and I was 0-2, I wouldn't be able to leave my tower without being one-shot. I think that generally speaking, respect for your character should be earned, just like respect in real life. If you've done nothing but run it down all game and your champion is really oppressive with a lead, I shouldn't even have to acknowledge your existence. But enough about other champions. Let's talk about Shen mechanics. During laning phase, you have a lot of power in single, short auto trades. So these are the runes I take on Shen. What you'll want to do is stack up your Grasp of the Undying and go for a trade. With Q, Shield Bash, and Grasp, you have a lot of on-hit effects that make your one auto really hard to out-trade in a single interaction. Remember the extended range you get from Q? This kind of lets you poke the other champions with smaller auto attack ranges. It forces them to either use abilities to try and out-trade you, or just take the L. Depending on the matchup, baiting out abilities can determine if you win or lose lane. Other matchups, you may just not give a fuck and just look for all-ins. Shen's E is also a versatile ability that has a lot of interactions with Flash. The Flash Taunt is something that you'll want to get used to if you want to use Shen to his maximum potential, as it basically assures a taunt and extends your CC range by a significant margin. It has a lot of outplay potential and really lets you style on people. The versatility of this move is insane for just a simple dash. It also makes you really dangerous under tower, for obvious reasons. One other thing, Shen has a ton of different items he can work with. Some of them are kind of troll, but they work. If you want to see how crazy this champion can be built, I recommend checking out Xpet2. He's an EU challenger Shen main, and he makes really good content. Last thing about Shen before I go. This champion's just cool as shit. He's a ninja with a spirit sword. You slice the souls of your enemies and fight for the balance of all things. He's not just a member, but a master of a ninja order. And one of his skins lets you go bonk. Always remember when you're dunking on people in lane that you're not just Shen. You're Master Shen. Good luck out there. Stay safe. Love you. Bye.